Welcome. This is Jeff, the Big Hairy Dog, and we are going to look at bike work orders. Now, this could be used for other kinds of work orders, but basically a work order is a sales order. So let's take a look. I've set some stuff up, and I want to show you what I have, and then we might look at the undercarriage and see how I did it. But let's just start with the basics here. So I'm going to go to sales orders, and the first one here should be the one I'm looking for, the bike order, right there. And I'm going to go to form view. So first thing I did is I used the big monitor, and big monitors are so cheap today, to make this easy to work on. And I added some fields and massaged them, and we could do more. Like I could change the word ship date here to be due date. We could go further than I have here. But I set up an order. No, so the order date, let's say, is today. I'm going to say that the due date is next the 3rd, say, right? And if it's not done by the 5th, I'm worried, right? I would want to set some basic parameters here. I've added a customer already, and I've got my customer, it's me, and I've got some phone numbers in here, and I've got a box for my phone numbers and my email, and I've got another box for my address over here, right? I added the note field where I put the bike that we're working on, and I put some information about what we're going to do to it, but I could go either way on that one. For instance, it might be better to put those down here. I wasn't really sure. Everybody seems to do it different online, so I put some stuff down here, and we could have added more than one of these, like right down here. I could have said, you know, that we're charging, thought that already had a price on it, but all right. The labor, I set it up as a decimal quantity so that if I had a labor rate defined in the system at whatever price it was, and that I could say I'm going to use half an hour, for instance, right, if I want to. So so if I set the labor rate at $60 an hour or $80 an hour, whatever you do, and then I could charge different amounts for different things, and if I wanted to, I could then describe, I could type in here what that is for, if that makes sense. So all right. Now, also, obviously, a sales order has the ability to take money, so we've got a balance due. We've got a total down here, right? We've got a balance over here due. I could go ahead and say, like, they're dropping it off. I could choose to take a deposit or not. I'm going to take a deposit just because we can. So we're going to say we're going to take, you know, 75 bucks. So tender, and let's just go cash and update only. And let's pop back here. And maybe at this point, I would then want to give them something like an estimate and show them where they are. So I'm going to go ahead and say print this bike work order here. And I modified this a bit too. This isn't deep here. I just took my basic design and modified it a couple of areas. I think I could still clean it up a lot. But you see I've got the shop name and the customer's name at the top here. I've got the description of what we're doing. And I've got the labor broken out and the parts broken out separately with the total at the bottom, and I've got their deposit at the bottom. Okay, so do you want to save this? No, I don't. And then, of course, I also did this here, a little small design that you could print to a card or stock or a sticker, depending on what you want to do here, that would be able to go on the bike itself so that as I move this around, I can quickly grab that and know what's going on with that and have dates on it and that kind of stuff, right? So, all right, so then, of course, to complete this, it could go one of two ways. There's two ways to complete every order. My feeling is that they would come in and say, hey, I'm Jeff and my bike's here. I would go back, get the bike. I would have the tag, and I would be able to then find it. So for instance, if I was here, copy that, and I was back here, and I came to the sales orders, and I had the tag, I could go right up here, and I could scan the tag into to here off the bottom of that tag. I had a barcode, right? I could find it. I could then see where they are in the whole process. Okay, so yeah, it's ready, but you still owe us some money. So let's go ahead and take the final payment, SO deposit, new, tender, cash, whatever, and update. And now, of course, I could just record the sale. So record sale. Okay, yeah, I got a little loyalty module plugged in that probably shouldn't be plugged in. Fair enough. All right, so now how I did this, right? I used the screen designer, obviously. And in the screen designer, I created these, in this section here, I created little groups, and we could go into screen designer much deeper, but I would recommend you get a certified technician to assist if you're not familiar with the screen designer and how I set these up. And I also used one of Karen's tricks here. I used a little panel to cover up. I renamed this field, as you can see, but I didn't like that. I didn't feel like it was displaying well enough, so I put a little panel over the top and cleaned it up, made it pretty. I put a background on it that made more sense to me. I also then went into the item section here, so this section here, and I right-clicked the column header, and I modified this using the page manager. When things are above the line, they're in. When they're below the line, they're out. Now, these fields here, these are not this mechanic field and the complete field. These don't exist in Retail Pro, right? Those are item note fields, right, that have been I took 1, 2, and 3 out of there and relabeled them to make them be more functional. Now, these are big fields. As you can see here, I can open this up and type quite a lot in there, or not. I could just leave it small, and I could just type it into it right there, right? I could just say, yeah, this was completed, right? I could just say, boom, this was completed. Okay, I think I already recorded the sale. Normally, we could type right in there, and we could just type right in there without having to open the box up. But how did I do that, right? So that is called the translator. So in Retail Pro's folder, so in your RetailPro9 folder, you have down here at the bottom a file called translate. And if you open the translator, this is what it looks like inside. There's a little setup. If you've never used this, just FYI, if you open this and you've never used it and you haven't gone to settings and pointed it towards the RPro MLD, which is in the translate folder, and turned on your captions and given yourself access, full access, it's not going to be very successful, okay? And then also by default, it shows all the languages by default, right? I usually limit the scope of what I'm looking at here to just the language that I want to deal with, because it's way too confusing to use this with, I don't know, a bunch of columns showing. All right, let's take a look here. Right now, okay, so right now I'm on labels, and that's also something I want to talk about. Let's go to find, and let's say customer order, and okay, we're not finding anything. And I do this all the time, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel my find. If you get your focus in the wrong place, you're searching the wrong column, right? So make sure you're on the right column. It's kind of good that I did that for everybody. And I do it way too much, by the way, but customer order, right, and say okay. And you see that I translated customer order from the words customer order to bike work order. Now, this is a label. Most of what we translate are labels. Labels are fields in Retail Pro. Okay, but back here in Retail Pro, if I click new, it says bike work order here. That's not a label. So if we're going to translate it all the way through, like I like the fact that it says bike work order right up here above my little box. It says bike work order, but it also says bike order or work order in the menu, and it says bike work order back here when I'm looking at the SO type, right? So if I'm going to get this thing translated correctly all the way through, then I need to go to view strings. Now in strings, I've already got a search already done here for bike work order. And you can see that I've translated all the versions of this out here. And be careful out here. You see this ampersand, and it's in this first box here. The ampersand is there for a reason. There's a programming function there that it needs to have that ampersand to be able to function correctly. So whatever they're doing, you want to do the same thing, in other words. So this is really, we don't change strings a lot, but we do change them, and this is an example where we would. Most of what you translate would be back over here, and a great many of those other fields that I translated on the screen would also be in here, and I'm not seeing them, of course. I think because they moved alphabetically, right? So let's go back though and take a look at real quick. Form view. Okay, so over here, here's an example. In the customer info box, all these fields said bill to, like, phone 1, bill to phone 2, bill to info 1. So I took phone 1 and made it home, phone 2 I made mobile, and info 1 I made office, so that I could have it show the way I wanted it to show. And I did the same thing over here. Address 1 I changed to street, and 2 I changed to unit, and I got those backwards. And city state I changed, it was address 3, and postal code was zip code, right? So I just changed all those around. And really, if I was going to work this correctly in that box over there, right, this one really should have been on top, right? It should have said street, unit number, apartment number, whatever would come second, right? So really it would present better like that. But all this is doable within Retail Pro. This is one of the features of Retail Pro, is that you can customize it to match your culture, right? At any rate, I hope this has been helpful and enlightening, and certainly look us up if we can help you in any way setting something like this up. Again, my name is Jeff at the Big Hairy Dog. Thanks for your time.